Yeah.
I've got a list. Scrub. Yep. Oh. I don't say his name very often.
Good job.
Meeting come to order. Have a review of the minutes. Everybody should have a copy of them and read them. Anybody know of any changes need to be made to the minutes? Yes, sir, Mr. Butler.
Got Brian Knight, citizen president, I believe that's gonna be Brian King, is it not?
Could be. Got that.
Friends like what?
Huh? Typo. We'll make that change.
I was there.
I hear a motion to make, for the minutes with that change. Mr. Butler.
Motion approved, amendment.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll elect officer.
I'd like to ask you a question, Mr. Dollar. How many years have you been the chairman of this committee?
18 years.
I'd like for that to continue. And so I'd like to make a motion for you for the chair. And matter of fact, I mean, I hate to do it for myself, so I won't, but I'd like to recommend you for the chair.
Second.
Motion. Any further nomination? Any further nomination?
I make a motion the nomination cease and we declare back.
Have a second? A second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Vice Chair?
The remaining two offices, vice chair and chair, stay as they were.
Did you say that?
You mean
Vice,
secretary?
the vice
Vice
chairman
chair.
stay as it has been, and the secretary stay as it
Okay,
has been.
that's what I thought you said. Want to make sure. Have a second to that?
Second.
All right. Any further? Anybody else? Have a motion to do it by acclamation?
Yeah, please.
All right. Second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Hunt. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, the same. EMS Vehicle Amendment, huh?
Since we're doing the same, who approved the motion for the minutes and seconded the minutes?
Mr. Buckmaster was the motion, and,
Who was the second?
Joe?
Joe.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're here to talk about the vehicle, this baby. I want to say that in our steering committee the other night, somebody brought it up that it would be a 3/4 ton truck. I don't think that's what they want. They still want a 1/2 ton pickup truck. And I believe that would be what would be good to, we can all discuss it, decide what it on, but they voted to have it go to a 3/4 ton, AAA truck, white Ford, 3/4 ton, but you don't need a 3/4 ton. The 3/4 ton they got now is being dropped down to pull a trailer, and he just needs a 1/2 ton for responding to emergencies. So, but it's maybe, get up.
I mean, we talked about this for like 6 months now, so I don't know what else to really say. I'm assuming I'm gonna field some questions about what I emailed out to everyone today, so. Anyway,
Is it gone up?
maybe like $7,500, I think. It hadn't changed much. It did, the price did change just a little bit from what's quoted on here at $29,878. It's like $29,932, I think now. So
What is the 42,530 here?
That's the MSRP. So if you went to buy it
Oh, okay,
as a
Alright.
private citizen, state bid price is gonna be
okay.
$29,878.
So 38 covers lights and all that stuff for it?
Right.
Okay. Anybody have any further?
Who's gonna drive?
Go ahead, Ms. Buck.
In the minutes, it said that there's two, vehicles that are gonna need to be replaced or have issues.
Correct.
So, what's the other vehicle? I know the one is, the one that you're gonna replace is gonna be pulling trailers. The other one that's having issues, is it a two-wheel drive?
It is.
Four-wheel drive?
It's two-wheel drive.
So what's your plan with that vehicle?
We're gonna apply for a Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG, and see if we can replace it with a grant.
Is that the 1 ton truck,
It's a 3/4.
3/4?
Okay, so the vehicle that you're wanting to replace is smaller than both of the vehicles that,
They're both single cabs, but this one is the '86 model. It's, has no modern safety features to it. We were working on it today, we have multiple electrical issues going on with it. I think we got some of it wired out today, but it's just not a reliable vehicle to use on a consistent basis. We like to take it out of frontline service and just use it for snowplow situations and stuff like that.
Non-emergency situations, since it's not allowed,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it only runs like, it's a 3-speed, so it only runs like 45 miles an hour.
right, which that's the vehicle that you're gonna replace with the vehicle you're driving now.
Correct, yes.
But in the minutes, it said that there's both Rescue 2 and Rescue 3.
Right, Rescue
Which-
3 is the one that we're talking about right now, so
Okay.
Rescue 2 is the 2004
Is it a two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive?
two-wheel drive.
Okay. And what kind of issues does it have?
It's got a exhaust leak that we can't repair without spending more than what the truck's worth.
And you're gonna apply for a grant to
Yes, ma'am.
replace that vehicle?
Mhm.
Other than being an 04 model with about $280,000 on it.
Military vehicle, isn't it?
Not that one.
Not that.
Oh, okay, never mind.
This one that has like the utility bed, metal bed on the back of it.
Yeah.
And so the vehicle that you're wanting to purchase, the two-wheel drive, is for you to drive?
It's 4-wheel drive too. The one I'm looking to purchase is 4-wheel drive. It should be on the main cover.
This 29,878.90?
If you look at the one with the picture on it, it's the very front one, should say
Jerry?
I was just gonna ask, if the grant don't come through, what's your plans?
Well, I guess we would, it's still serviceable for now, and we can still use it. So we can, it doesn't really haul anything, it's not under a lot of stress, so it's more of just a personnel move around in it, they go to classes in it sometimes, we just don't wanna drive it real far.
Or snowplow? Still.
It won't take a snowplow, only the 86 is set up to take the snowplow, so. The thing is with it, if you do it through AFG, cause we're doing it, cause it's got safety issues with that airbag, it's got some other electrical problems that they fix, that you can't use it as an emergency response vehicle. We wanna keep 86 and be able to do responses on a limited basis, but if you replace it with it, you have to put a detailed statement on how you're gonna discharge it from service, so.
So this one we're buying, is it gonna be white or gray?
Gray. But the one we have now is gray. If we're moving it over to the rescue, if 4 or 5 years from now, we wanna move this one over, I'd like at least to keep them the same color.
So really, we're buying you a new truck to ride around in, and then taking your used truck and putting it in the rescue service.
Right. I think you're a little off on ride around, I mean, my goals.
The, discussion the other night, and I was the one that first mentioned something about it, and then Mr. Clary was the one that actually made a motion to move it in terms of a recommendation, was that and we're not, let me preface it by saying, we don't have a policy on it yet, but we're gonna be soon looking into a policy of trying to streamline all of our vehicles in the county, to be the same color, to make it uniform, because, you know, just like we have an example right now, where we're trading one to another area, and Mr. Clarity made the recommendation, and it passed unanimously in the steering committee, that unless you were the sheriff's department and needed something for covert operations, that we'd like to see the different departments have a white vehicle and all across the board as much as possible. So that's not a policy yet, but we'll be looking at that in our personnel. It was kicked over from the steering committee to the employee personnel committee to look at that, to try to formulate a policy to do that. And so I wanted you to be aware that that's something that came up, that we might wanna talk about here, if the color's that big of a deal, because we're right on the verge of possibly passing that. It seemed to get quite a bit of traction and positive thoughts in the committee that was in the steering committee, which was full of commissioners the other night. I just wanna throw that out. Also, the 3/4 ton versus the 1/2 ton. They thought about a 3/4 ton, and I asked the question, well, why would you want that? And they said, well, somebody spoke up, I can't remember who it was, said, it might be more versatile if you were to later trade it to another department. It's a stronger vehicle. And, you know, being that we're a small county, I mean, that's what we're talking about tonight, is trading a vehicle from one area to another. And if it's a 1/2 ton truck, it couldn't do as much as a 3/4 ton truck, and it may cost you more, a little bit more, as you have a history of the truck. But that was what was explained to me, so I don't know exactly where we are with 3/4 or 1/2 ton. I thought I'd hit both topics because that was Mr. Clary's recommendation. And the steering committee said, hey, this is what we'd like to see do, even though it's not really a policy yet. But, you know, we're gonna be kicking that idea around in employee personnel. So I guess the thought process of the question would be, would you have a problem with it being a white truck?
Me, personally, I don't want a white truck. I don't see the point of all the vehicles in the county being white either. We're gonna make fire departments trucks white, we're gonna get rid of all the parks and Rex trucks and make them white. I mean, there's plenty of vehicles already that are in service in the county that are white.
That's one of the reasons we've been talking about this, is the fact that there's different colors of vehicles. We're trying to make them all uniform and look professional as one color. Secondly, let me ask you, how many miles is on your truck?
38, I think. Right.
Just 38,000 or 138,000
38.
on your gray truck?
Yes.
Okay.
No, this is a policy that we discussed going forward, with terms in reference to the colors, and to add to that, we're talking about labeling all the county vehicles with the, knowing that, you know, since the county's the ones paying the bill on it, we'd like for that to be noticed, whether you're in Holden Law, or whether you're in Trousdale County, or whether you're in Nashville, unless it's something that the sheriff's department has to be covert or something of that nature where you wouldn't wanna do that. Well, it's just something we're talking about, so since we're talking about buying a truck and we're on the verge of possibly passing a policy that would would go countywide, I think it's worthy of bringing up a discussion about it. I mean, I don't know that the colors are that big a deal, but I'd like to see us be uniform with what we're doing.
Just a question is the other counties around us don't have uniformity, why do we have to be uniform?
We don't necessarily have to be uniform, but then again, I'm not, in this particular case, I think it looks better, and then if we have to trade around from one place to another, it would be better. Any other commissioners that were here the other night like to elaborate on it as well?
I would just, isn't a white vehicle cheaper than a colored vehicle?
Not
It's
anymore.
not anymore, okay.
Now, pretty
I
much
thought
the same,
maybe that might
and they
be-
don't make a single cab anymore, they're all crew cab now.
Right.
Or
I just
four,
thought that-
or four door or some kind, yeah, they don't make a single cab anymore, which is one of these older trucks is a single cab.
How much is this truck gonna be used? You're moving your truck over, and I guess, I don't understand why at 38,000, you're wanting to trade out of yours and go to another one.
Because we're replacing one that's not
When we
serviceable.
bought a rescue truck, what, 16, 17 years ago, and it's got 16,000 miles on it? If we're buying another one for the rescue service, wouldn't it be right to put the brand new one in the rescue service instead of trading it with yours?
But
I'm
we need,
just
we
trying
need
to
a
figure this
3/4
out.
ton to haul the trailer on, that's why we're gonna move the 3/4 ton down to rescue. And I don't know what you're talking about, what was bought 16 years ago, we don't have anything, it's.
Well, I'm talking about the rescue one. It's only got 16,000 miles on it, it's what?
I don't even know if it has that anymore. It's got somewhere around there.
Somewhere around it, I
That's
looked at
the
it the other
primary
day.
heavy rescue truck for extrication though, if it's
All
on
trailer.
Well, and I understand that, I do, I just don't see swapping vehicles here, plus or changing colors, but that's just my personal opinion, so.
We need to haul the trailer with. That's-
The bottom line of this is he still needs a truck, I mean, either he uses it, I mean, that's his department, so he gets the discretion, and the mayor, obviously, if I'm wrong, Matt, your boss is the mayor, right?
Mhm.
So if the mayor doesn't have a problem with it, and Matt doesn't have a problem with it, he still needs a vehicle. I mean, we're beating around a color, and who's gonna drive it, when the bottom line is the man needs a truck. So, it's either yes or no if he gets the truck, and then it's up to the department head what to do with it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not concerned with the color or anything, but to the comment there, yeah, the mayor's his boss, but it has to be recommended by the commission, so it's just not, if that was the case, we would be talking about this and never say yes or no. So even though the mayor's his boss, it's still the county commission for checks and balances, that it goes through here, gets recommended through here, budget and finance, so on and so forth. There's a system we have in place for such purchases like this, when it's county money, taxpayer.
Right, but don't the committee just.
Recommend.
base it On the
Yes.
purchase.
Yes.
Not on the
I'm
specifics.
saying, all I'm saying to that is nothing to do with all the discussion, it's just the fact that it's not as simple as he works for the mayor makes a decision, and boom, we go on. I'm just trying to make a point that there are checks and balances, and there's reason for the commission to make that. If that was the case, we wouldn't have 20 commissioners in this county,
this doesn't.
based on that, so that's my only point.
I didn't really wanna get too involved in this, but the rescue one that, Mr. Hunt referred to, the 2004 F-550, I actually purchased that myself, went to Fentress County and got it, was a used vehicle from Marshall Air Force Base. Had to have a lot of modification done for us, got it worth the money. It is a heavy rescue, it does not go on the medical calls, it does not go on a lot of the calls that some of the other vehicles go on. The 86 four-wheel drive, I was also involved in the purchase of it. It was an Army truck that came from the Sheriff's Department that we had to take two and make one out of. And it will literally only go 45 miles an hour, something like
I
thing
know
blow
what you're
up.
talking
The other, I think is 02, 04 Chevy utility bed. We actually had to buy it because we blew up the other 86 that we had and gave it to the county highway department, and they put another motor in it, just because they had the resources for it. Four-wheel drive didn't work, couldn't keep brakes on it, so we bought that in a pinch because we were out of vehicles. Bought it from an auction in Lafayette. So they've been getting by on used vehicles. I know the 86 and the utility bed were really not meant for a primary response vehicle to begin with. Now, the 86 will push that plow around. We got the plow for not snow. Although it is good for snow, we got the plow after the tornado to clear roads with. It has extra heavy duty springs, extra heavy plates on the front. It was built specifically to push trees, which that truck would be good for, but it's not good for a day-to-day response. Now, a little history on it, we went to a water rescue the other day, and they drug the trailer in with that 86. Again, it blew the fuses to the lights, the siren quit on it. It's just not meant for it. I know you can't take 118 funds and rescue a truck with it. It's not legal. So you can take 118 funds and buy the director a vehicle. And he can transfer his vehicle over to rescue so that they have a decent vehicle that you're not gonna get killed in. That was my point to what they're doing. As far as colors and as far as decals and things like that, I just don't believe we have the authority to tell them that. I believe we have the authority to approve the purchase or not approve the purchase, and that's the gist of it. And I think he's got a valid reason for asking for it. And that's why I wanted to explain that to you. I was involved in many of the things that they're talking about.
And it's come out of the budget you control, correct?
Yes,
And the money's there, no problem.
absolutely.
And again, I'll say too, the color, I prefer white, but again, it's where we're gonna purchase it or not. So that's, I mean, if you don't wanna vote for it because of the color, then that's what you're voting for. But if you got the funds, department head, yeah, I would like to see it marked at least or something like that, but that's something down the road that, again, there's no policy on it right now, so why are we even addressing it part of it? You know, we can say what we'd like to have, but if it's not a policy, then it's just, we like to have versus policy.
You making that a motion?
What's that?
I said, are you making a motion to purchase it?
I don't know if discussion's done yet.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to make a motion to purchase the truck,
Then I'll second.
Halftime,
halftime,
four-wheel drive?
whatever color Mr. Wade wants.
Yeah. She said a second. Gary second, Gary second. Any further discussion?
I had a question, are your rescue vehicles, are they assigned to individuals, or are they just?
No, they just
there?
pay for building and
They
first
stay
come,
in the
first
building.
served on who gets there to drive them.
Unless it's a specific objective that we are trying to complete, and then there's certain trucks that go on those certain type of calls, but they're not assigned to any specific person, no.
Here,
So when you have when a rescue call comes in, all the rescue members go to the building and then
Depends on
get
what
the
kind of call
vehicles
it is.
and go? Is that
Yeah,
the way-
typically.
like,
Yeah,
that's
and
what
it
happens?
just depends on what kind of call it is, depends on which trucks go.
So I'm assuming that your truck that you're gonna move down in Rescue 3's place will only be used if a trailer needs to be pulled, right?
No, not necessarily, no, that's gonna be its primary use will be to haul a trailer, cause we don't have another vehicle to haul the trailer. But it'll be if the call doesn't require us to haul a particular, a hazmat trailer or swift water trailer or something to the scene, if it's, a wreck or something else, and we just need, I'd rather have 4 people out in one vehicle than have 4 people's personal vehicles on the scene, so you could consolidate more people into one vehicle instead of having a bunch of vehicles on the side of the road, kinda creates a hazard.
yeah.
Just clarify, the heavy duty one, like you, the 16,000 miles or whatever it's on, that's more like a second response, a second alarm vehicle, you get to something, you need something heavy duty.
Again, it just falls back to whatever the type of call is.
Right.
If it's a wreck, that's the primary vehicle that goes.
Or if the primary you gets on scene, say you show up and it needs it, you'll call it out then,
Right.
right? Yeah. That's why it's got the little mileage.
Like if somebody's trapped or entangled in anything, it could be a farm machinery accident, it could be a wreck, entangled in the wreck, that would be the primary vehicle that goes, cause it has the most assortment amount of tools on it.
It has probably 30 to 40,000 pounds of specialized extrication equipment. That's all it does.
Jaws of life, so on and so
That is
forth.
all that vehicle does.
Yes, sir, Mr. Martin.
I don't have a problem with buying the truck. It's gonna have its own budget. I'm not saying that that's not the issue, but we have waited on this for some time, so it's not like we're buying something that has to be put into play next week. I disagree with some of the comments that we don't have the authority. It is a county-owned vehicle, so we would have some authority to say, maybe how it looks, which is, to me, not a big deal, but at the same time, we are discussing that as a commission. We are gonna have that in a committee, to get him to approve the buy truck. I'd be in favor of that, but I'd like to see what the committee says and brings it before the commission on the topics of what we were just discussing the other night. Because I did see it, and a lot of those people are not on this committee, but if we don't let that play its course, then some of those commissioners are gonna say, well, we recommended that, but then y'all did something totally different. And I'd like to let that play its course, so my thought would be to approve of him purchasing the vehicle with the caveat that we wait to see what the rest of the commission does on the policy of whether we label it, because I don't really care about to get the truck. I think he needs the truck, he's gonna donate, that's great, that's the big thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Already have a motion, I think.
You already got it, you already got it.
Rules of procedure, you gotta vote on them.
I know. Mr. Buckmeyer, what'd you have?
I'd like to get, perhaps the chair's interpretation. I have this paper, Ordinance 66-2012-02. Just an interpretation of what y'all think. This is a Charleston County ordinance. Therefore, be it resolved by the Commission of Hartsville Charleston County Government that those department heads, directors, administrators shall have complete authority and oversight to manage the employees and conduct the day-to-day operation of such departments, including approval of all budgetary spending. In all cases, the department head, director, administrator shall approve all purchase orders for spending department funds. Department heads, directors, administrators shall be responsible for employee hiring, employee evaluation, employee disciplinary action, employee terminations, delegation of employee duties, employee scheduling, and day-to-day operations within their respective departments. Department heads, directors, administrators shall consult with the appropriate board, committee, or commission for additional assistance in the operation of that department. Now, I'm not sure I know how to interpret that, so I'd like perhaps some interpretation of this committee. Mr. Ferguson, if you'd like to address that, this was an ordinance that you sponsored.
Well, it sounds like to me it talks more about the day-to-day operations with employees and hiring employees and firing employees and personnel policies from within. The vast majority of what you just read talks about department heads and their dealings with their employees within their department. It also recommends that if anytime they need to do anything within the commission, they could seek to do so. Mm-hmm. We are the power of the purse. I think we do have input on it. Mm-hmm. I think if the commission as a whole decides, we don't wanna do that, then just, that'll be okay, because that's why we got 20 different commissioners. My interpretation of that is that basically directs talking about policies that are within the departments, that they run their departments within their employees, for the most part, is what I heard out of it.
The day-to-day need clarification of what consists of
day-to-day operations could be a multitude of things, but if we're gonna just say that they totally can do everything without any permission, we wouldn't be here tonight talking about this, would we?
That was my question.
Yeah.
How much of it should we be talking about?
Well, why should we be trying to approve it to start with? Or not approve it? I'm just saying that we had a lot of discussion about this other night. Some other commissioners said, we'd like to look into this policy, maybe making things look uniform, or trading vehicles within departments. We'd like maybe get a bigger vehicle, because if down the road we trade it. I think that we owe it to those people in that steering committee, some of the other commissioners that were even on the committee, hey, well, let's look at this. I mean, if this were a vehicle where you just had to have it like next week, that's one thing. We talked about it for a while to start with. And maybe the determination of the commission is, let's not worry about the decal, let's not worry about that. I think they ought to have the opportunity to do it. That's just my thought. I mean, I'm just wondering.
Yes, Mr.
Rescue 3 is currently out of service at this time for electrical problems. So.
It'd be great to have a truck in service. So when we can't get a piece of equipment out here to the citizens in an emergency situation, we'll have to explain that reason to them currently.
So don't we have a supervisor truck that sits up there all the time too?
We do, but it's a half ton. And some of those trailers and different things that won't be able to pull easily at all.
Actually, my 6 right there, all right.
Which is another reason why we need a 3/4 ton instead of.
The rescue is getting a 3/4.
The thing is, them
So I have a question.
All right, you asked for the question?
Uh-huh.
All right. You're gonna go ahead and vote. All right, in front of us, we have a motion and a second. Buy a half-ton pickup truck. They gonna go purchase a half-ton pickup truck, gray in color. All in favor, raise your right hand. That are on the committee. You're not on the committee.
Oh. I'm on a committee.
Are you?
I wouldn't have seconded it, I'm on a committee.
I think we've got two committees in here, to be honest, what we have.
So, Emergency Services Committee, I'm on it.
Yeah, but anyway,
Oh, we might need a new roster.
He's on that list.
On the,
all right, all against, raise your right hand. Right hand's have it.
We both better raise our right hand, that's not.
The first right hand's have it. Yes, sir. Yeah.
The bill, it still has to go in front of the full commission, correct? Correct.
Well, that's true.
Correct. So the steering committee, whoever the concerns were there, need to bring that up in the full commission, and then it'll be voted on again. If there's concerns there, then that's when the final vote happens. This is just a recommendation vote
That's
tonight.
true. Yeah.
So we still got time to move on if we need to.
And the world don't come to the end.
My question is are you gonna turn the fire truck white too? I mean, are you gonna change all the vehicles white?
No, common sense would say they're either red or they're yellow.
Right, so,
Fire truck down there.
and there's tons of EMS agencies and different other agencies that don't use white for their emergency vehicles either. I mean, there's blue ones, there's red ones, there's.
And the bigger deals from other departments, they get to different things. They don't. We do.
Let's move on. Mr. Mayor, we'll turn it over to you to address this on the address display ordinance. I'll let you.
Turn it over to Mr. Buckmaster, it's his ordinance.
Okay.
Throw me under the bus there.
nice.
I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with this, house address ordinance. Spent several months writing it up, sent it through the, zoning committee the other night with approval. Some of the folks feel he might be infringing on their rights, tell them they gotta put a sign in their front yard. I do wholeheartedly understand that. I actually understood it when I put like a lot of work into this. Matt worked on it with me, the sheriff, Waylon, Chief Dealer, we all basically worked on this for several months to draw this up. It's basically an ordinance that came from another municipality that has been cut way back. A lot of the things in it have been cut back. And because I didn't really want to infringe on what I thought was people's rights, we took a lot of the verbiage out that specified the sign, the size, the color, things like that. This ordinance basically says you have to put a sign at your driveway with your house number on it in 4-inch letters or 3-inch if reflective, on contrasting background, visible from both ways on the street, and maintained. A lot of people complained about the cost. Smith County Emergency Services are selling for a profit. They run their departments on some of their own money. They're not completely government funded. They're selling these signs, they're advertised at $30 for two, and it's the big fiberglass flat posts that drive in the ground with the numbers on it. For us, because the way the ordinance is written, the numbers have to be on both sides, it goes up $5. They will sell them to any citizen in our community. $35 for one, $60 for two. Matt and I discussed if there's some folks around here that want to buy those and they have trouble installing them. I've actually even put the EMS office phone number on some of the social media. We'll get somebody out there to drive it up in the ground for you. I have understood another gentleman that I believe it was $20. He purchased one that goes underneath of the mailbox, green with white letters on it for $20. Surprisingly, my daughter today comes in from Walmart and they have a 911 number kit. and that's what it's called. It's a green reflective background with a big paper full of reflective numbers, and you put your numbers on it to hang vertically or horizontally, put it on a post, put it under a mailbox, on top of a mailbox. This ordinance doesn't say vertical, horizontal. It doesn't say what kind of post it has to be on, what color. If you have a fence at the end of your driveway, at your driveway, you put it on it. If your mailbox at the end of your driveway, you put it on it. Above it, below it. If you wanna drive a 2x4 at the end of your driveway and nail some numbers to it, as long as they're on a contrasting background, it'll work. If your mailbox is across the street, it won't work. The nature of it was to say which driveway are we supposed to turn in. Now, there are some ulterior motives here. Like I told them, of course, as a member of the fire department, if I'm going to a fire, generally speaking, tell me the road, I'm going to the big orange glow in the sky. But for EMS and deputies to go to a house that you can't find a number to, you delay that response a great deal. Also, if someone gives you an address, says there's a prowler at 2165 Highway 231, and you get there and there's 4 mailboxes, 4 driveways, none of them numbered, and no numbers added at a driveway. Your officer pulls up, goes to the door he thinks is the right number at 3 o'clock in the morning, starts beating on the door, he's subject to get shot. Same way with EMRs. We've harped about getting our volunteers to go on these medical calls. In their family vehicle, they pull up in the wrong driveway, knock on the door, things could go bad in a hurry. That's why we want the number at the driveway. We believe it will greatly help our responses from all of the emergency services. So those of you that are commissioners, this is gonna come up on the commission meeting, I believe, this month. I would appreciate you vote on this. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those.
It's the only safety, what I got. Yes, sir.
I'll preface my comments here as a retired 22-year plus police officer in Metro Dayton County. I'm for this. The part that I have a question with is on your section 13-402, you just addressed it about the mailbox being directly across the street. In District 3 on Highway 10, that's where most of the mailboxes are. As a retired police officer, yes, I agree. There was nothing more aggravating than come up to an address and you don't know where you're going. But if the mailbox is directly across the street and it's numbered on both sides, my common sense says this driveway here. So in my district, they might say, well, I got it on my mailbox across the street. There's not 4 houses up there. There's one house, it's not 100 feet down from the driveway. It's right directly across the driveway. I don't see why that would be an issue of not having it on there and they're alone.
Let me ask you this, this is why it's included in there, for the odd, which actually is not that odd. Let's put 2 mailboxes side by side. Let's say one of them's 2165, one of them's 2166. They're side by side on the left side of the road. There's a driveway here, there's a driveway here. Which one's the right address?
Yeah.
And that is that way a lot in this county.
And as I said, it's for the mailbox. It's just one mailbox directly across the street from the driveway, which is the way most of them are on Highway 10 going up towards Lafayette. There's not 2. There's 1, and it's right across the street.
But we had to write this to cover the entire topography of the county, and there are many mailboxes. You're gonna notice, what's the subdivision on 231, just one in Hunting Hills?
Yeah.
And, the one down here across from the old Bob Pitt car lot, the subdivision there, Hickory Ridge. The new one they're building out there by the church. You notice they're putting in those big gang mailboxes up in the front. See, those mailboxes, that's where they're gonna be at. And quite honestly, if y'all will look as you drive, I'm gonna guess there's between 70 and 80% of the homes, residences in this county that don't follow this ordinance. Now, there's probably 50 to 60% that don't have any numbers.
Yes, I agree with you there.
I have seen people put numbers on the side of their mailbox, nice numbers, and then fold the flag down over the top of them. or they put them on one side, not the other, cause that's the side that the postman comes from, but that's not the side the police officer may come from. So there was reasons for putting all this in here the way it was. I know what you're talking about, and I'd love to tell you that we had to write Sam in here as the enforcement officer. I'd love for Sam to have the leniency to say, there's only one mailbox there, we know it's that
Well,
driveway.
my main reason for asking the question was just what you just explained. Where I have constituents in District 3 ask me that, I can give them an intelligent response that we're all on the same page of saying, so they don't hear my response, hear
Yes.
from another commissioner a different response, it's the same response
Yes.
to the citizen.
I mean, that's the way it was put in there.
So
That
it's
was
more or
our
less a
thinking.
rhetorical question, so to speak.
Like,
I think if you get in that situation where you start making exceptions for a small few, and then everybody's gonna, well, my mailbox is just skewed off a little bit, and it's almost directly across. And then you get more people complaining, well, I don't wanna put a post up, because mine's close.
I wrote this in with a $25 fine. I didn't want to put any fine in it, I'll be honest with you. I did not want a fine in it, but everybody was like, you gotta have something with some teeth or people are just gonna ignore you. Then the question arose that every other building codes violation has a $50 fine.
Right.
So we needed to make this one 50 to go with the rest of them. They're all the same now. I'm not looking for people's money. I'm not looking for them to spend a ton of money. What I'm looking for is the tan mailbox with the bronze numbers nailed to it that you can't see.
Well, and hopefully if somebody gets a ordinance citation, they come to court, they show that they have complied now, hopefully the judge will dismiss it anyway.
By the way, that was, it has a 180-day grace period. From the time it's approved, gives you 180 days. If we can all get out and say, hey, this is coming, can y'all, even that home road down there, didn't bring numbers in before they went out.
I have a question. I got my mailbox, I have it on both sides of my mailbox. Then I've got one that's right beside my driveway that has the numbers on each side of it. Is that okay, or do you have to have another on the other side of the driveway?
If you got one next to your driveway, either side, 4-inch numbers, 3-inch if reflected on contrasting background, that's it. It can be 2 foot off the ground, it can be 6 foot off the ground. Again, I didn't really want to get in everybody's business and say, you will buy this sign that's this color and do this with it. That, to me, was too much. But in the interest of keeping everybody safe and helping them, we had to do something.
I always thought that if, when I have to go to law or I want the ambulance service there, I want them to be able to find me. That's the reason I put mine up there.
Any other places that have this ordinance in play have the ability for the individual homeowner to, in writing, opt out?
Not that I know of, I don't know.
I've not seen anything.
You have some
opt out
that
as in
don't.
not put their number up.
If they were to sign something in writing saying, I do not wish to participate in this, will that homeowner be allowed to?
But they'll be the first one to sue you.
They would, but they would be the ones in writing that said they didn't.
I say that if somebody has a criminal background, they would be the ones that didn't want a number on the.
Now,
Are they trying?
in reference to this, a lot of your ambulance people, they don't, of course, the county's getting larger and larger, but a lot of those are not even from here, are they?
How many people actually live here? David?
Chad.
So it's, you know, so they really need this.
So we get maybe one person out of
So,
17.
I know I'm talking on both sides of the fence, but I'm saying, did any of the other ordinances have that option available?
I can tell you that I researched this house number ordinance for well over a year. And I never came across any of that verbiage anywhere. I looked for something that basically would cover, because of a metro government, would cover city, county, everything. I can tell you that there are a lot more places that have this ordinance than you would think. I can also tell you, obviously I'm not from here, where I came from, the county had such a problem, they actually put the big green fiberglass post in your yard for you one year and added it to your property taxes. You didn't have a choice. And that to me is just not something we need to do.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a proponent of this, I agree, and the way I look at it, you're saying there's 7%, just a guess, of houses that don't have this, if half of them get it on there, that's 35% more we didn't have, we can save somebody, the people there that need to be there.
Absolutely.
I'm looking for a motion. Okay.
Take a motion to approve.
Yeah, well, Mr. Mayor.
There's some things I need to cover before we go ahead. It's not for any there's only one item I would add, I suggest you add to the language of it. The one we want to go to is, if you look at the ordinance itself, it's written as far as the regulations and everything, the formatting is different, and the reason is, I suggested, I'll put this together, so if you wanna get mad at anybody, get mad at me, not Amy. There has been a constant habit in the past of an ordinance would be passed and it would never be codified inside the code, and so you've got a code that's sitting here that says one thing, and then this ordinance that changed it floating around out here somewhere and never put in the book. So, to get this codified, I suggested that it be added to Title 13, since the building official is going to enforce it, and he would be enforcing Titles 12, 13, and 14 of the code. This seems to be more appropriate to Title 13, which is property maintenance. And looking at the existing sections of the code, it would seem like it'd be better to add it as a new chapter. And then it would have its own provisions, and I've put to call it, I think, display of postal addresses. So that's why that actually will be 2 sections shorter, because I'll recommend, some of that was enacting language that's going to be in the introductory ordinance language right here. So it doesn't need to be included in the body of the ordinance. It can be put here in the enacting language. So it did make it 2 sections shorter, but it's included in here. I would suggest that if this is going to apply to the entirety of Hartsville-Trousdale County, that we also put in language that was put in the noise ordinance language. It's the last section, specifically says this applies to the entire Hartsville-Trousdale County jurisdiction. So I would just suggest adding that as a new section. It'd be section 13-406. Did I explain that well enough, or is there any questions?
I just got a question about something else. The property owner, say somebody wrecks and runs over your sign, it's gonna fall back on the property owner to go back and have that. What if you live at an intersection where people are constantly running off the side of the driveway, or you got renters that cut in real close and they're gonna be continuous? Well, it's gotta be displayed on a shared driveway, so I'm gonna have to have 2 numbers.
You have a shared driveway?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to put numbers side by side, basically, your number, their number,
Yeah,
or they will, whatever.
yeah.
So that we know which driveway to turn down, it's gonna ask you to number your house and then which house once we get down the driveway. So you're saying yours may get run over
Yeah. I mean,
on either side of the driveway?
Boat dock line, you know where
I
we're
know.
at. People come down through there, they'll run off the side of the road, they'll run through the back on the property owner to maintain the sign, right? So if somebody comes through and wrecks and knocks my thing over, I'm gonna have to go out there and put it back up.
Yeah.
And if I don't, then I'm gonna be charged $50.
Well, if they tear your personal property up, you have the ability to collect that.
Yeah, but
That's
you never
probably
get
a
that back.
rate question right there, I don't know how that
Yeah.
falls.
Just like if you tear a guardrail up, the county can charge
Yeah,
you
but
for
I
the
don't get
guardrail.
fined if somebody hit, well, we did, down that way, we had people going by hitting mailboxes, tearing them up. I didn't get fined because I didn't fix it.
Did you fix it?
Nope. So, some people on my road don't even have,
They still need, we still need to find them in emergency.
yeah,
So that's where you put a post in.
but I just don't agree with the fine. Like if something,
If you don't
That's
find
my
it, they're
thing.
gonna do it. That's the whole point.
It doesn't have to be right on the street. You can move it 4 or 5 feet back. It doesn't, there's nothing in there says it has to be like right next to the asphalt, right?
Not that I remember. I think it just talks about generally at the end of the driveway.
Mhm.
and your house number won't work, I mean, you can't have it, if you've got the letters or the numbers on your house, that
Some
doesn't
people's houses are
apply.
300 yards off the
Yeah.
road.
Many
It's gotta
houses
be
we
on
can't
the
see.
driveway.
In the dark at night.
It'd be easier to find
Assholes.
on the driveway.
Have a really good-
Well, a lot of people-
Binoculars.
Don't they use their GPSs to go to?
GPS is
Take-
always take you to the.
Use your GPS to go to
Okay.
Purvis Lane.
I've had so many people that use GPS, try to find prison.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every one of them, I wouldn't be in here tonight.
You ever see,
I would just think, during the downtime, if you're working for the county, I'm sure the deputies, they learn the roads, cause they're working, they
you
learn
don't
it.
know whose house is whose.
Yeah.
That's
All right,
what
Eric.
you learn.
In reference to the mayor, your comment, are you basically, the very first part where it says, whereas the Hartsville-Trousdale County Codes and Zoning Enforcement Committee has met and considered regulating the display of postal addresses and numbers within the jurisdiction of Hartsville/Trousdale County, That's what you're asking to be put as the 406?
Yeah, we need to see, cause when it gets codified inside the code, this is not gonna be there, so we need to put it in there. That's what was in the noise ordinance, so yes, we need to add it as a new section.
I make a motion to add that language as 406, amend the,
Plus the title 13.
yes, 13-406, amend the current ordinance to state the language as in the very first whereas.
Alright, need a second?
Second.
Got a second here? Any further discussion? Gary?
I would ask the author of that ordinance, is that good with you?
Yes. I mean, I didn't read this, that's my bad. I read the one I read the other night, I didn't know.
I mean, because we are admitting your
Yeah.
hard work, so.
No, for the legal issue, I mean, I would trust the mayor and the committee to, again, I didn't want the $50 fine, but you have to put something in there, nobody's gonna do it. I mean,
Where again, they might not be fined, it goes to court. Yes.
I mean, seriously, I will drive a post up for them, I just want the numbers, I wanna keep these people safe, that's all I want.
All in favor? Oh, go ahead.
I just will say what Mr. Buckmaster presented, except from the two sections that were enacting language that's gonna be included in the ordinance. Everything else, other than the formatting, is exactly the same language.
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass it on to the county commission with a favorable recommendation. Any other business? Not?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, sir. Any of you gentlemen that have been here tonight, glad to have you.